Hi, this is Francis Sideco with TIRIAS Research. I'm here with my colleague Jim McGregor, who just came back from one of IBM's many, I would call flagship products, because they've got a few, but this one was IBM Think in Boston just this week, and there's definitely a lot of huge developments and announcements that they came up with. So. Maybe Jim, we could start with just some of your overall impressions of the event, and then we'll go from there.
IBM Think is really an opportunity for them to show off their wares and their latest technology. And the best way I can describe Think, because it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose, because they present and talk about so many different things. It's really about how they're bringing their complete, secure, highly reliable environment. And when I say environment, I'm not just talking about the mainframes, but I'm also talking about all the software, all the solutions, everything that they've built up over the history of IBM to the enterprise, especially for AI. So, I mean, they highlighted four key pillars that they're really focused on. That's hybrid cloud as being a key element for solutions for the enterprise, transaction processing, automation, and data. Definitely being able to use trusted and secure data, and not just. And typically in the past, it's been all been about structured data, but now unstructured data.
Yes.
So they made a number of announcements that help with all of these. Definitely one around Lakehouse, where they're creating kind of this repository for different types of data and different locations and everything else in a trusted and secure environment. They talked about Orchestrate, which quite honestly was probably my highlight for the show. Because Orchestrate has kind of evolved since they've introduced it, and now it's kind of like this all-inclusive AI orchestrator, where you can actually create agents, and they actually showed creating agents, custom agents, within 5 minutes.
Cool.
Now that's using existing LLMs and tools that are out there. It's using structured and unstructured data that the enterprise has. It's even using some of the agents that IBM's already created for specific functions within an enterprise like HR or purchasing and stuff like that. So they continue to build out, and obviously not just through their agents, but also through their Granite models. They continue to build out all these resources for enterprises to use. We've talked about this in the past, when a lot of enterprises are struggling with AI. And IBM is really enterprise ready AI. They bring the consulting, they bring the trusted environment, uh, they bring all the a lot of software, the tools, even the models to help you create an AI solution right out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've definitely talked about enterprise AI, and that's really the next wave, I think, of value creation of AI. To be honest with you, um, excuse me, excuse me. You mentioned, Lake House, Orchestrate, and I think there was kind of a hybrid automation thing as well, that they're kind of bringing all these pieces together to really, I've always called IBM kind of the easy button for enterprise AI, because the hardest thing about
Mm-hmm.
that is taking your corporate specific information and context and bringing that into whatever AI tools or systems that you're bringing in so that it's relevant for your business. So maybe we could double click a little bit on some of those pieces like Lake House, hybrid automation, orchestrate. Like, tell us a little bit
Well,
about what Lake
well,
House
we
was.
Well, once again, Lakehouse's report, it's their ability to bring different pieces of data that may be in different locations and may be structured, may be unstructured, and bring them into an environment that's fully secure. And that's probably the most important thing to remind people is the fact that IBM is bringing what they're bringing to the enterprise is they're bringing all this very highly secure and trusted environment that's been used by the financial industry, by governments, by healthcare organizations. They've traditionally used and relied heavily on mainframe solutions. They're bringing all of that, and they're bringing a lot of it in an open source manner to where it's easy to port, but you also know that you've got all that history and you've got all that legacy, security, reliability, and everything to go along with it. The and it's not just them; they're also obviously building out the ecosystem. So they talked about working with Meta to bring in the llama models to be able to leverage those alongside with the granite models.
Yeah.
They talked about extending their relationship with Oracle for the enterprise and also with Lumen to actually take some of this AI expertise out to the edge to be able to run on edge solutions. So they are trying to really provide a complete framework, if you will, for enterprise AI and make it as easy as possible to do.
What was the hybrid
It's
automation?
interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The hybrid automation was really about, simplifying the ability to automate API and workflow integration.
Okay.
So it really complements HashiCorp, which they acquired to be
Yeah.
able to do a lot of this integration. So it's really automating those workflows and those processes within the enterprise, which are often difficult to do, but one of the key areas to use AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things that we haven't talked about, well, you mentioned orchestrate, Watson X orchestrate, but also part of that is the
Mm-hmm.
granite models. Um, what did they say at Think about those two areas?
Well, it's interesting because they didn't get into a lot of the granite models, just the fact that, a new generation of granite
Yeah,
models is
they're
coming
like
out and they
3.2.
continue to introduce new ones. Yes, so didn't get a lot of detail on that, unfortunately. I
Well,
hope we can dig
just as
into
a
that
shameless
future going
plug,
forward.
yeah, just a shameless plug. We did do an article on the latest 3.2 models. If any of our viewers want to look into that a little bit deeper. But what was the orchestrate bit that you were mentioning? What did they mention
Once
there?
again, the orchestrate is something that they introduced years ago
Yeah.
to really help with AI development and of models, especially for Gen AI. But now it's really going towards agentic AI and the ability to take data. You can do pretty much anything from creating your own model
Yeah.
to from data, just from data that's out there, to actually taking other models and creating your own agent, custom agent within a very short period of time. And like I said, the example they did was actually within 5 minutes, where you
And
just kind of click and choose what you want. It's kind of a menu system, and all of a sudden, you've got this custom agent for sales or for HR or for manufacturing or for an engineering function or whatever. And it's interesting because we've heard more organizations talk about using AI to train new people
yeah.
and even to automate a lot of the tasks that we do every day. So and that's not easy to do today, to create custom agents. But IBM's trying to make it as simple as possible to where an enterprise can create those agents.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned with all the different types of models, not only can it bring in different kinds of models, it uses multiple models to create that agent, right? Which is, I
Yes.
think, incredibly critical to be able to do that if you're going to go towards a full agentic route, because agentic AI requires, multiple models being able to be used for one purpose or towards one purpose.
It is definitely a mixture of experts type of solution
Yeah,
where it's going to be using multiple models and using as much data, and even using different forms of RAG.
yeah,
Enterprises have struggled with RAG, but now there's knowledge graphs that you can use. There's something called cache RAG. There's a
yeah.
lot of different ways that a lot of different pieces of data that you can kind of add into that
Yeah.
prompt process to help, enhance that whole AI experience for Gen AI or for agentic AI.
The other thing that is worth noting there is not just different kinds of generative AI models. It's also a mix of predictive AI and generative AI. Or some people have
Very
called
much so.
predictive AI more like classical AI, where but a mix of those two types of AI, I think, and them being able to deal with that and orchestrate is huge.
Well, and you have to remember that, there's still a lot of machine level functions or
Yeah,
basic level functions that
yeah.
don't require generative AI. They just require the ability to understand and analyze data and really extract intelligence from the data.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's doing.
And so you mentioned mainframes too. I was at the Z launch that happened a month ago, but
Mhm.
now at Think they launched the Linux One version of the mainframe. I think it's important to talk a little bit about that too, because we're talking about all of this AI capability, both predictive and generative. And they've flown that or flowed that all the way down to the hardware too, because these new like Z and Linux One
Absolutely.
systems have Telum, have Spire, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that and what they've done
Yeah.
all the way to
No,
the hardware level.
yeah, so this is going to feature the Telum 2 processor and the Spire accelerator, the same one that's being used in the Z system,
Yeah,
which is kind of nice because I think having that common AI accelerator is going to allow both platforms, the Z platform and the Linux One platform, to continue upgrade that AI performance over time. Matter of fact, the new one's called the Linux One Emperor 5, and they claim that this, especially with all the AI capabilities built in, will be able to process up to 450 billion AI inference operations per day.
yeah, yeah. That's crazy.
Now,
That's
where we're going to get 450 billion AI
well,
operations per day, I don't know. Now,
well, you know, when you look at
maybe we'll replace all of Wall Street. I don't know.
that's when you look at the types of applications that require the reliability, the security, the performance of a mainframe, it's those kinds of things. There's a ton of transactions being done electronically every second of the day, and maybe you need that kind of stuff.
Well, it's transaction processing, it's data analysis, data analytics,
Yeah.
it's threat detection and
Yeah. Yeah.
analysis.
Fraud
I mean,
detection,
obvious,
potential fraud. Yeah.
yeah, even network management. So, I mean, there are. It is. I joke when I say where are we going to get that many AI inference operations per day, but quite honestly, when you think about it, just about everything in the things that we do every day, as well as all the functions within a system,
Yeah.
electronic system, are going to be AI enabled. So
Yeah.
it's not
And
hard to see, and that's one of the cool things about the IBM platform is the fact that they have the AI accelerator on the processor that can handle, kind of the smaller models or the classical AI, traditional AI models. And then they've got the Spire accelerator for those big,
yeah.
generative AI, agentic
Yeah.
AI models and functions.
Yeah.
So they can balance the load very, very effectively. And they mentioned that, and this was one of the key things about obviously their platforms. One of the things is just consolidation. They're seeing more and more customers and even new customers that are going towards a mainframe. When we say mainframe, this isn't the traditional, Cray supercomputer. This is something that looks like a standard 19-inch rack, especially since about 2014 when IBM made that transition. It
Yeah.
looks like a standard rack, but it has all that security, reliability, and functionality and high performance
Yeah.
capability built in. They showed one case where they were able to, one customer was able to consolidate from 256 x86 processing nodes down to 16
Yeah.
in one of their Linux One platforms.
That's amazing.
Now, it is amazing. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on the type of workload you're running and a lot of other considerations. But when you can actually do that for standard enterprise applications and be able to use this for other functions, both for the standard mainframe transaction processing as well as now AI processing, you get a very, very flexible platform.
Well, and that has a lot of downstream implications too when you can reduce the number of servers or
Yes.
mainframe or yeah, basically servers down to one rack from cooling to energy consumption to actual real estate footprint and the physical cabling and so forth. And you can use that savings in one of two ways. You can either realize those savings or you can use that extra space in your resources to build out and have more capacity. But I mean, either way, it's
Especially
huge.
when you have the additional power. And yes,
Yeah,
and that consolidation is significant. And that's, I think, the one thing that they were able to point out was that this is consolidation,
yeah,
not just in terms of space, but also in terms of power,
yeah,
cooling, and everything, in terms of total resources,
yeah,
really reducing your carbon footprint
yeah.
to your point, to where it's more efficient and you can do more with that space and or more with those resources that are available.
Well, it's clear from this and frankly, what IBM's been doing over the last 24 to 36 months is it's clear to see what their strategy is. I mean, it's focused on enterprise AI and solving the unique problems there. And they've got the solution all the way from the hardware to the models to the tools that create the agents that use those models, all the way to the data, and even the consulting guys are using all this stuff as they're trying to bring it to bear. So it's a pretty full-fledged solution, and obviously not everybody uses all of it, but that's a pretty impressive array of things to bring to bear.
It was, and that was something that also Arvin, the CEO, pointed out was the fact that they are expanding their support structure not
Yeah,
just through human capital or
yeah,
human consultants, but also through AI consultants.
yeah,
So
absolutely,
it's providing a significant capability for IBM to do a lot more for additional customers.
absolutely.
So it
So
it is going to be significant. In more than anything else, AI, and I think we've seen this with every aspect of AI that we've seen. It really addresses that labor shortage issue that we have throughout many industries, not just technology, but
yeah.
agriculture, healthcare, you name it.
So you can't go to an event called Think without learning what IBM is thinking past AI. And I think we all know what's past AI right now is quantum, and IBM is one of those companies that's leading the charge there. What did they talk about regarding quantum at the event?
I don't know. I'm still thinking. No, just kidding.
That's going to be a
The
while if we let the processor that's up there do its runtime.
No, they didn't really dive deep on quantum, but did mention that yeah, that is the future, and they are looking at using quantum effectively. And if you look at any of our social media feeds, you'll see me with a picture of three quantum chandeliers
Chandeliers.
behind
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
It's like a hot rod. You just can't walk by. You got to stop and look. It's really cool.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
definitely, they still have huge investment, not just in quantum, but also neuromorphic computing,
Yeah,
which they don't really talk about that much. But with the North Pole processor they developed, so IBM's got a huge investment there. They and just in the fall, there were four new NIST
yeah.
cryptography um, algorithms released, and they were
Standards.
all
Yeah,
from IBM.
yeah,
Technically, three were IBM, and one was from a separate entity that now works for IBM. So they claim all four from IBM,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I'll give that to them. So
yeah.
they are on the leading edge of that, and I got to discuss that in a little bit more detail with one of the top people there, and it was incredible. It's almost like super positioning in terms of some of the algorithms they're using. It's kind of like a lattice with n different phases. So
Yeah.
it's almost like creating a superpositioning mathematical equation. Um, and just the math was blowing my mind as the more we got into it. It really is incredible what they're doing. They are really creating harder and harder. It's kind of hard to think back because when we were in college, it was all about solving these, impossible mathematic equations to solve. Now we're trying to create mathematic equations that
Well,
are impossible to
I
solve.
mean, all of our encryption is based on the hardness of factoring large integers, right? And
Yeah.
because of quantum, that's going to be easy for quantum to do. So they got to find a different mathematical architecture to have the same kind of hardness where a quantum computer can't solve it very easily. So
So it is good
very
to see
cool.
that they're thinking about not only the future of quantum, but the
Yeah.
future of classical computing relative to quantum. And the good thing about especially these algorithms, we should point out, is that opposed to using a quantum computer for random number generation, which is another thing you could do, but that
Yeah.
requires a quantum computer. These algorithms are designed to run on classical computers, so
Yeah.
they don't require the resources of a quantum computer.
To
So they
generate
are,
the cryptography. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
So it's a very important point.
do you have any
So
other
no, it's very important.
do you have any other closing remarks on Think?
Just the fact that it's good to see. IBM thinking holistically about, an enterprise class solution and how to meet the needs of the enterprise. Because I think a lot of enterprises are struggling and
Yeah.
continue to struggle with AI, trying to piece together the hardware, the software, the models,
Well, getting their
dealing
data.
with different types of consultants or hiring enough data scientists to do it. IBM kind of walks in with as they're really, we overuse this term, but they're really trying to democratize AI for the enterprise.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it as easy as possible and create that solution. Very much like NVIDIA is trying to create the AI foundation, IBM is trying to create that enterprise foundation.
Yeah. Very cool. Perfect. Well, thanks, Jim, for that rundown of IBM Think, and thanks everybody for listening in, and we'll see you on the next one.